I once heard about an Indian elder telling a story to their grandchildren about two wolves that lived inside of them, which were always fighting each other. One wolf was mean and represented hate, the other wolf was kind and represented love. Curiously, one child asked, "Which one usually wins?" The elder warmly replied, "The one that I feed the most." What I like about this story is that it is an allegory for the truism on how all opposites struggle to seek balance. What I also like about this story is how easily it can be applied to describe the two wolves that live inside of me. One wolf is humble and represents my Inupiaq heritage. The other wolf, a little more arrogant and represents my Western heritage. My Inupiaq heritage is rich. It is based on a subsistence economy of bartering knowledge, skills, and the sharing of renewable resources. I feel lucky that my grandmother helped raise me until I was 3 years old. She spoke mostly Inupiaq, and while dismembering a seal one day, I remember grabbing the seal's eyeball and feeling how slippery and spongy it was in my two little hands. Raised on traditional foods, I have a taste for them now and benefit from the greater nutritional value they offer over Western foods. Later on in my youth, if it wasn't for the Native Youth Olympics, I would have not assimilated very well, nor would I have received the testament and certificate to my proper assimilation, my high school diploma. Today I remain somewhat active in my Inupiaq heritage by drumming and singing songs or dances, which tell stories and celebrate the foundation of my Inupiaq heritage, hunting, gathering, and living off the bounty of the land's nutritious foods. My Western heritage is also rich. It is based on the economic system of capitalism. Here we trade time, knowledge, and skill for a common currency, money. This money is used as a means for measuring the value of buying goods and services that we need and use. When I was 2, I remember in a diner on Front Street that we lived at, reaching into the cash register one early morning and grabbing as many flat little shiny pieces of metal that my little 2 hands could hold. I put them in my coat pocket, and my older brother and I walked to Glue Pot Ice Cream Parlor. I traded all the little shiny pieces of metal for a couple of ice cream cones. I remember traveling outside of Alaska for 3 years. I learned about television, McDonald's, trees, and zoos. In the zoo, I pointed to the seal and knew my grandmother could easily dismember and prepare it for dinner. My Western heritage can also be somewhat confusing. What is confusing is that it sometimes wants to regulate the harvesting of renewable food resources my Inupiaq heritage depends on. It does this in the name of capitalism. It kind of makes sense. If my Inupiaq heritage is not harvesting traditional foods, which are more nutrient dense by the way, they can at least buy the more expensive Western foods that come from government subsidized farms. Along with stricter food harvesting regulations, it seems more families are turning to food stamps, WIC, and now, recently, FDPIR, the Food Distribution Program on Indian reservations. As a result, more and more children are now eating Western foods first. This sets an unsavory precedent that may contribute to disconnecting our children from their culture, getting them to lose their taste for traditional foods. Again, traditional foods are more nutritious, both physically and spiritually. Like the two wolves fighting inside the American Indian elder, I have 2 different cultures living inside of me. Both compete for my attention, and my attention is their food. The Western culture is strong and feeds all the time. So I pay close attention to my Inupiaq wolf spirit when it howls to celebrate, but especially when it howls for help.